Have you ever noticed how some people completely lose control when they can no longer manipulate you? The mask slips off, and suddenly, this confident, charming individual turns into someone desperate, furious, and even plays the victim to regain control. Why? Because their power was never real. It only existed as long as you responded. The moment you stop reacting, you expose their greatest fear, meaninglessness. So, how do you truly break free from this vicious cycle? Watch until the end, because what I'm about to share could change everything. Don't forget to like, share, and follow for more valuable lessons. When a person with an arrogant personality realizes that they can no longer control you, everything in their mind begins to shift profoundly. You need to understand that their need for control over you is not just a simple desire, but the very foundation of their identity. Their sense of self is fragile, built upon an illusion of superiority and power. And when this illusion is challenged, the entire psychological structure they've meticulously constructed begins to crumble. At first, they won't believe it. The first reaction of an arrogant person is not fear, but denial. They've spent their entire life cultivating an image of being untouchable, always in control, always the one who dictates everything in life. They see themselves as masters of influence, capable of manipulating the emotions and thoughts of others at will. When you begin to break free from their control, they don't panic right away. Instead, they will convince themselves that you are just rebelling, that you'll come back once you realize you really need them. They believe it's just a temporary phase, because in their mind, no one can truly escape their control. But then something changes. You no longer react the way you did before. You don't engage in arguments, you're not dragged into guilt, and you don't get caught in the emotional games they deliberately set for you. They begin to sense this change, feeling as though their grip is loosening, and that's when anxiety starts to build inside them. For an arrogant person, losing control over someone isn't just an inconvenience. It's an existential threat. Their entire worldview is built on the ability to manipulate others to confirm their false self. They don't have a strong, clear sense of self. Instead, they rely on the reactions of others to create a sense of superiority. When you refuse to play that game, you're not just challenging them. You're taking away the psychological fuel they need to survive. At this point, their mind keeps spinning, asking, what happened? Where did I go wrong? They might even convince themselves that you've been influenced by someone else, an enemy who has poisoned your mind against them. Because in their world, that's the only explanation. They must always be the winner. When an arrogant person realizes that they no longer control you, it destabilizes them mentally. For them, the idea that you could become stronger without them is unacceptable. They cannot comprehend another's independence. They only see pawns or threats. If you're no longer under their control, you must have been manipulated by someone else. And this only causes them further confusion, with doubt beginning to take over their mind. You may notice a shift in their attitude, from moments of desperation hidden beneath a veneer of confidence. They might fluctuate between pretending to be indifferent and making dramatic attempts to regain power over you. They might lash out with cruel words, deliberately saying hurtful things to see if you still feel pain, if you're still shaken. They want to know if you're still vulnerable, if they still have power over your mind. But if you remain firm, if you face their aggression with indifference, if you don't succumb to their provocations, you will witness something miraculous. Their mask begins to slip. That fake confidence quickly gives way to a raw, uncomfortable sense of fear. Although they always portray themselves as superior, the truth is they are riddled with anxiety and fear. They fear losing power, fear being exposed, fear facing themselves without anyone else to reflect back their image of power. And this is the crucial moment, the moment they realize they have lost all control over you. At this point, they are faced with a choice. Either they will escalate their madness, becoming more aggressive and desperate in their attempts to regain dominance, or they will retreat, disappearing from your life to seek out an easier target. Either way, you've won. Because the moment they begin to panic, the moment their confidence wavers, they reveal something they've been hiding for so long. They were never as strong as they appeared. Their control over you was always an illusion, depending on whether you accepted the role they assigned to you. When you refuse to play that role, when you don't engage in their game, you force them to face the truth. They don't control you, and they don't control themselves either. And that is the defining moment, the moment they realize they have nothing left. So the question is, when that moment arrives, will you be ready to face it? Will you recognize it for what it is and stand firm, refusing to be drawn back into that vortex? Because once an arrogant person knows they've lost, they will never return to how they were before. When someone can no longer control you, they will do everything in their power to make you doubt yourself. But if you stand firm, if you don't let yourself waver, then you've won. The only thing left for you to do is to walk away, never looking back. When someone around you realizes they can no longer manipulate you, their first instinct is to try to regain power in any way possible. This isn't always a deliberate strategy, but rather a deep-seated urge, a desperate attempt to restore the imbalance that once served them. Their entire psychological structure relies on maintaining control, and when that power is threatened, they will respond with manipulation, threats, or even destruction. One of the first things you'll notice is how they begin to rewrite the narrative. A selfish person cannot accept losing control over you, so they start to construct a different version of reality, a world in which they are still the dominant force. This might manifest in many ways, such as attempting to paint you as unstable, ungrateful, or irrational. They may spread rumors, implying that you were the problem all along. If they can't control you directly, they'll try to control how others perceive you, and this is no accident. The power of a selfish person doesn't just lie in their ability to manipulate you. It also stems from their ability to shape the world around you. They instinctively understand that perception is reality for most people. If they can't keep you under control, they at least want to make sure you don't walk away unscathed. They do this not just for revenge, but to reinforce their own illusion. If they can convince others that you are weak, broken, or at fault, then they don't have to face the uncomfortable truth that they were never as strong as they claim to be. This is the moment when your strength is truly tested. When the selfish person sees that you're no longer playing the role they've assigned to you, they will try to provoke you into an emotional response. If they can make you angry, if they can make you defend yourself in a panic, then they will regain some control. They will point to your reaction and say, "See, I told you they're unstable." They want to draw you back into the game, because as long as you're still engaged, even in anger or self-defense, even though they no longer have the same control over you, the real challenge lies in whether you recognize this. The only way to truly defeat a selfish person is to step out of the game they've created for you. Don't engage in the argument. Don't try to explain yourself. Don't seek validation. But here's the crucial point. You are no longer that person. The version of you they once controlled is gone, and that terrifies them. The biggest mistake you can make now is underestimating how far they will go to regain control. This isn't just about their ego. It's about their survival. When a person is driven by the need for control, they need victims to satisfy their instincts, much like a parasite needs a host. Without this source of nourishment, they begin to weaken. And to avoid that, they will do whatever it takes, sparing no tactic, even burning bridges behind them. If they can't regain control over you, then shattering what remains of you becomes their next objective. They will try to destroy your relationships, tarnish your reputation, and erode the confidence you have. Because to them, if they can't possess you, they don't want anyone else to either. This is a destructive act, stemming from the emptiness within their soul. But you don't have to let them succeed in this scheme. The antidote to their manipulation is clarity. Clarity about who you are, clarity about the truth, and clarity about what you will and won't accept. The most powerful weapon of a manipulator is confusion. If they can make you doubt yourself, if they can keep you entangled in their chaos, they will maintain indirect control. But if you refuse to get caught up, if you stand firm in your understanding of reality, their tactics will fail. And that is the moment they fear the most. When you see their true nature and walk away, unwavering, unbroken, and completely free. They will go to mutual friends, family members, colleagues, secretly sowing half-truths and even outright lies. They don't understand what's going on. They will say, "I've done everything for them," and then they turn their back on me. Pay attention to the structure of these statements. Always vague enough to leave room for interpretation, always emotionally charged enough to make the listener feel pity, and always aimed at achieving one goal: to make you the villain. This is no accident. The narcissist knows, perhaps better than anyone, that perception is reality. If they can convince enough people that they are the victim, they have essentially become the victim in everyone's eyes. This is when things become much more dangerous, because if you react, if you try to correct the truth, if you attempt to defend yourself, if you try to explain right from wrong, you're walking straight into the trap they've set. You see, they're waiting for you to do just that. They need you to fight back, because in doing so, you validate the narrative they've created. You provide them with more ammunition to continue their attacks against you. Is there another way? The answer is yes. The only way is to refuse to engage in their fantasy world. You do not need to defend yourself against lies that were never constructed with fairness in mind. You should not engage in a battle that was designed from the start to drain and confuse you. You do not need to waste energy trying to dismantle an illusion, because by ignoring it, it will ultimately collapse under its own weight. This is where true strength is required. Walking away from a narcissist's false narrative demands resilience, patience, and the realization that there will be people who will believe the distortions about you. This is incredibly hard to accept, but the truth is, staying in their game, responding to every provocation, is far worse. Because when you begin defending yourself against their accusations, you are unintentionally accepting the very foundation of the story they've created. And that's exactly what they want. Remember, silence and refusing to participate is the wisest course of action in this situation. When facing people with manipulative tendencies like this, they're not just trying to control the narrative. They are testing you. They want to see if they can make you feel guilty, if they can make you doubt yourself, if they can make you hesitate in your decision to leave. They will say things like, "I don't understand what I did wrong to deserve this," or "maybe I was never good enough for you." These words are not random. They're subtle tactics designed to exploit your compassion, making you question whether you are the one at fault. But no, you're not at fault. You simply no longer have the patience to continue enduring a toxic, twisted cycle they've created. When you stand firm and decide not to engage in their games, when you resolutely refuse to be dragged into the traps they set, you will see their reaction. One of two things will happen. Either they will escalate their attacks, possibly by directly attacking your character, or they will attempt to recruit more people to their side, making you the enemy in the eyes of more people. Or, when they realize their tactics are no longer effective, they will move on to a new target. And this is the key to understanding everything you need to know. Someone who truly cares about you, who truly values your presence in their life, will never want to hurt you just because they lost control. They will not feel the need to tarnish your honor, distort the truth, or play the victim to justify their actions. That is not love. That is not respect. It is just control disguised as attachment. So, when you witness someone with this kind of personality shift, transitioning into the role of the victim, understand what that truly means. It means you've won. You are free. Because someone with true power does not need to manipulate others into believing they are weak. The greatest revenge against people like this is not anger, not fighting back, not proving them wrong. The greatest revenge is living well, living without harassment, without being knocked down, and not caring about their illusions. Because when you stop playing their game, they're the ones who lose, and they know it. This is not a coincidence. It is a calculated strategy designed to pull you back into the cycle of emotional dependence and impulsive reactions. For someone with an arrogant attitude, control is not just about direct domination. It is a way to keep you emotionally bound, no matter if it's through fear, anger, or guilt. And if they can't manipulate you with charm or pity, they will provoke you to force a reaction. So, what does provocation look like in this case? When provoked, our natural response is often to fight back, defend our dignity, assert the truth, and prove we're right. This is instinct, and yet that very instinct is exactly what manipulators want. Every minute you spend explaining yourself to an arrogant person is a minute you're not moving forward. Every drop of energy you expend refuting their lies is energy they've drained from you, pulling you back into the cycle of emotional dependency on them. So, what is the alternative choice? It is not to fight, but to refuse to engage in that battle in the first place. But refusal is not weakness. It is true strength, because true strength doesn't need to prove itself. When an arrogant person tries to provoke you, the most powerful reaction is to not react at all. This doesn't mean being indifferent to their failure, but rather maintaining an attitude of nonchalance, not allowing their words or actions to affect you. You must understand that their words, actions, or efforts to upset you only have power if you give them meaning. This does not mean you should remain silent when treated badly. Setting boundaries is essential. If they harm you directly, distancing yourself or implementing necessary consequences is unavoidable. However, what you need to avoid is being pulled into their provocation. Groundless accusations, malicious words are not worth your explanation or justification. Let them expose their true nature, because in the end, someone who can no longer provoke you is someone who has lost power. Of course, this is not easy, especially when these attacks are personal. Imagine memory not just as a static record of events, but as the foundation upon which we build our understanding of ourselves and our relationships. A narcissist knows very well, whether consciously or unconsciously, that if they make you doubt your own memory, if they convince you that the experiences you had are not as you remember them, they will make you question your own decisions. They will confuse you, making you wonder if you're being too harsh, too sensitive, or too unreasonable in standing your ground. So, what will they do to change this history? One of the most common tactics is outright denial. They will firmly tell you that what you remember did not happen. If you remember an argument where they said cruel things, they will insist they never said such things. If you remember a betrayal, they will claim you are imagining things, that your emotions have distorted the truth. And if you persist, still insisting that you remember clearly, they will become angry, casting themselves as the victim of your false accusations, of the delusions in your eyes. When denial fails, they will shift to the tactic of distortion. They will take small pieces of the truth and twist them, turning them into something unrecognizable. You may remember times when they yelled at you in anger, but now they will say they only raised their voice because you were the unreasonable one. You may remember moments when they withdrew, acting cold as a form of punishment, but now they will claim they were simply giving you space because of how much they cared. They will change the perspective on past events, transforming them into reasonable stories to defend their actions and make you feel a fault. And then, there is an even more subtle tactic. They will rewrite the entire history of your relationship. They will say they were the ones always trying to make things better, that they endured so much because of your flaws, your instability, because you didn't see how much they cared. If they can make you believe you were the problem all along, they will make you feel guilty for leaving, for setting boundaries, for standing firm in your position. They will paint themselves as a self-sacrificing saint, and you as an irrational attacker, hoping that this distortion will be strong enough to pull you back into their control. But here is the basic truth. You're under no obligation to participate in their game of rewriting history. You do not need their permission to believe in your own experiences. One of the most resilient acts against a narcissist is to hold onto your own truth, refusing to let them decide how you will understand your own life. And this is not just about accurately recalling past conflicts, but about recognizing that your perceptions are valid, that your emotions are justified, and that the choices you make to protect yourself are completely necessary. Many of us often feel confused when someone repeatedly insists that your memory is wrong, that your emotions are mistaken, that your perspective is incorrect. It is something that makes you feel insecure, causing you to question whether you misunderstood. And that is exactly what the narcissist is hoping for. They are hoping for your self-doubt, for your forgiveness, for your willingness to trust others, even if it means compromising your own reality. But the truth does not require recognition from those seeking to manipulate it. You do not need their approval to know what happened. You do not need their consent to hold on to what you know is true. The moment you stop seeking validation from them, is the moment you begin to take back control of your life. When you stop participating in their games, trying to distort the past, that is when you truly free yourself. Because once you recognize their pattern of behavior, once you realize that their efforts are not about the truth, but about controlling you, you will gain immense power, the power of unwavering clarity. And that is exactly what a narcissist cannot tolerate. Clarity makes you impervious. It helps you become immune to their tricks, their distortions, their manipulations. So, when they try to rewrite the past, when they try to convince you that things are not as you remember, don't argue. Don't try to get them to admit their wrongdoing. Don't waste energy making them acknowledge the truth. Just recognize what they are doing and refuse to play along. The truth does not need their permission to exist, and neither do you. When an arrogant person realizes they can no longer control you, they often change tactics, shifting from manipulation and distortion to something much more brutal: destruction. If they can't own you, if they can't influence how you see things, if they can't make you doubt yourself, then they'll try to tear apart the very foundation of your life. And this act doesn't always come from malice, although it sometimes does, but sometimes it comes from desperation. Because to them, losing control over you feels like losing control over themselves. This destruction can manifest in various ways, but one of the most common forms is an attack on your reputation. Narcissists care deeply about how others perceive them. They want to be understood and evaluated correctly in the eyes of the world. And when you refuse to play into the story they've constructed, when you reject their control, you become a threat. In their eyes, every threat must be neutralized. They'll spread lies, twist events, and create stories that paint you as unstable, malicious, ungrateful, even dangerous. They will try to turn your mutual friends against you, making you their enemy, while they always remain the victim, ensuring they still control the narrative, even though they no longer control you. And this tactic works remarkably well because most people don't pay close attention to the complexities of such relationships. If someone seems hurt, if they insist they've been treated unfairly, many people will easily believe their story without ever digging into the true nature of the issue. When facing such people, the natural reaction for many is to believe them. Narcissists aren't just skilled actors. They have an ability to evoke emotions, bring on tears instantly, and tell tragic tales that make them appear as the unfortunate victims. Thus, you may soon find yourself in a difficult position as others around you start to view you differently. Gossip, rumors, invisible yet echoing, make you realize that the smear campaign against you has begun. This is the moment many people falter. The urge to justify yourself, to correct misunderstandings, to clarify the truth may feel overwhelming. You want others to see things for what they are, to recognize the manipulation. But the truth is, rushing into that battle is exactly what the narcissist wants. When you react, when you try to counter their lies, you're still trapped in their game. You're still playing along with the narrative they've set up. And the more you react, the more you help reinforce the story that you're unstable, easily triggered. So what do? Instead of fighting back, let them destroy themselves. Let time reveal them for who they truly are, because the truth will eventually speak for itself. Those who thrive on manipulation, who need to control and distort reality, can't maintain that facade forever. Cracks will begin to show, patterns will become clear. Those who once followed them blindly will either realize the truth or continue to be complicit, but either way, you'll be free. The reality is, once you're no longer caught up in their deceit, you're no longer a pawn in their game. The next way they'll try to destroy you is by attacking your personal life. If there are any relationships they can access, work, finances, or your circle of friends, they will use those connections to stir up problems. They may try to undermine your credibility at work, sowing seeds of doubt in the minds of your colleagues. They might meddle in your personal relationships, spreading lies to those closest to you. They may even drag you into legal disputes, lawsuits, or anything else that drains your time, energy, and resources. When you stop reacting, stop letting others manipulate your emotions, you not only regain your freedom, but also take away their most powerful weapon, their influence over you. Remember, You don't need anyone else to define your worth. You can write your own story. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. If you've ever been in a similar situation, share your story in the comments below. You're not alone, and perhaps your story will help someone out there find their way out of the control cycle. If you're facing other challenges in life, let us know. We're always here to listen and create content that's useful for you. Don't forget to like this video if you found it helpful, share it to spread the value to more people, and hit subscribe with the bell icon so you don't miss the next lessons. Let's build a strong, independent, and meaningful life together. See you in the next video.